a more prosperous future for coffee communities worldwide. This is a high-level event which aims to present a transformative proposal to align national and regional coffee policies and investments with the SDGs. We also aim to open a strategic dialogue to foster international cooperation in support of rural coffee economies. Please note that this event is being streamed live on YouTube, and we encourage you to share your thoughts. You can follow on social media CAF, Agenda CAF, and CCSI on LinkedIn. And if you want, you can use the hashtag Sustainable Coffee SDGs. Before we move to the opening remarks, I would like to start with a short video that we prepared, the CAF prepared, that shows in brief this very important initiative. Thanks, everyone.
Coffee, more than a drink that brings families and friends together, or a crop for business or simple cultivation, is the livelihood of millions of families and the social fabric that keeps thousands of communities connected worldwide. Its future depends on how we face the current social, environmental, and economic challenges. Market volatility, climate change, and the fragility of the producing countries' national and local economies demand more than isolated solutions. They require a systemic and urgent transformation. That is why CAF, Development Bank of Latin America and the Caribbean, and the World Coffee Producers Forum joined forces with the Sustainable Investment Center at Columbia University, the United Nations Sustainable Development Solutions Network. From this alliance emerges a powerful tool, a practical guide for coffee-producing countries to design and implement national coffee plans for producers' prosperity. A method based on the Sustainable Development Goals, which serves as a compass to guide the present and ensure a prosperous future for coffee farmers in Latin America, Africa, Asia, and Oceania. National coffee plans are strategic roadmaps designed to promote the joint design and creation of comprehensive and sustainable development structures aimed at fostering the prosperity of coffee-growing communities. The success of these plans will depend on the active commitment of governments in producing countries through inclusive public policies, as well as the participation of producer associations, the private sector, and national and international financing entities. Together, they form the driving force behind this shared vision. This process begins with a participatory diagnosis, where producers, national and local governments, the private sector, and experts come together to identify needs and opportunities. Through a collaborative analysis, they recognize the strengths, challenges, and specific opportunities of each region. Based on this, truly comprehensive development plans are designed with concrete actions that respond to the realities of coffee-growing communities. Next, the financing routes are analyzed, which, among other things, connect sustainable projects with investors, development banks, and the private sector. Finally, an investment roadmap is developed to turn ideas into prioritized actions with agreed-upon timelines, concrete goals, and assigned responsibilities. The coffee plans include the implementation of transformative actions, key interventions designed to have a significant impact on the priority areas of the SDGs in coffee-growing regions. These actions are focused on creating comprehensive structures through national and local public policies, actions, and programs that holistically address the most critical challenges and promote the prosperity of communities through sustainable integrated development. We will address the challenges of the coffee sector in an integral manner, with the prosperity of the producers as the central focus, improving their living conditions and those of their communities, promoting sustainability, and ensuring the long-term viability of coffee production. Every cup of coffee tells stories of life, sustainability, justice, and hope. That is why the National Coffee Plans for Producers' Prosperity, based on the Sustainable Development Goals, are an openly accessible tool available to the entire coffee community worldwide. Its purpose is clear: to drive transformative actions that create a real impact in communities, promoting prosperity and sustainable development. A path where coffee farming families can build a better life, where each day represents progress, and where each generation lives in better conditions than the previous one. That is the true legacy we aim to leave behind.
Beautiful. And now yes, that's dessert. Yes. And now we invite our distinguished guests to the stage for the opening remarks. So we start with Alicia Montalvo, the Manager of Climate Action and Biodiversity at CAF. Thanks so much, Alicia.
Thank you very much, and good morning, Your Excellencies, dear friends, dear Jeffrey. Thank you very much, Juan Esteban, Manusia, Jamie. This is a real pleasure to have you here and to be together today, the Friends of Sustainable Development and Global Coffee Farming. Good morning to everyone. It is a great honor to welcome you to this high-level meeting during the 80th United Nations General Assembly. We're gathered here today with a common purpose: to improve the lives of millions of coffee-growing families in Latin America and the Caribbean and other coffee-producing regions around the world. Coffee is one of the most widely traded agricultural products in the world. However, behind every cup we enjoy is the story of hard work, tradition, and resilience of the thousands of rural and urban families involved in coffee production in each of our countries. Globally, over 12.5 million families in more than 60 countries depend on this crop. Yet, many of these families face living conditions characterized by informality and multidimensional poverty, as well as the growing threat of the climate change. In Latin America and the Caribbean, a region responsible for producing over 70% of the world's Arabica coffee, over 5 million coffee-growing families remain the weakest link in the value chain. This situation cannot continue. The prosperity of coffee producers is an ethical imperative and a prerequisite of the sector's sustainability and the comprehensive development of our rural areas. That is why CAF is very proud to support this guide to coffee prosperity, an innovative tool that provides a clear, practical, participatory roadmap for building inclusive, resilient, sustainable rural coffee economies that are aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals. This guide is not just another diagnosis. It is a call to action. Adopting a territorial approach with a focus on public and private investment and stakeholder coordination, it aims to bridge social, economic, and environmental disparities in coffee-growing regions. It is also an example of what can be achieved through collaboration between governments, academia, private sector, international cooperation, and producer associations. I would like to express my deepest gratitude to the World Coffee Growers Forum, Professor Jeffrey Sachs and his team at Columbia University's Center of Sustainable Investment, Wise Responder, and all the other experts who contributed to this collective effort with such a rigor and commitment. At CAF, we are firmly committed to promoting a new strategy for agricultural prosperity in Latin America and the Caribbean. Our goal is to invest $8.5 billion by 2030, doubling the financing achieved in the last 5 years to accelerate the sustainable transformation of the agricultural sector. Today, I invite you to embrace this initiative. Together, we can build national coffee sustainability plans that focus on the SDGs and demonstrate that prosperity is indeed possible when we work together. At CAF, we provide countries with technical, financial, and knowledge services to support the formulation, financing, and implementation of these plans. Together, we can transform the life of millions of producers and build a more just, prosperous, and sustainable future for the world coffee-growing regions. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Now, Juan Esteban Orduz, the president of the World Coffee Producers Forum. Juan Esteban.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I want to especially say hello to Vanusia Nogueira, who's a co-founder of the forum and now the executive director of the International Coffee Organization, a very true and dear friend. So Vanusia, welcome, and to everybody. The World Coffee Producers Forum was born from a dream, the dream of coffee farmers from all over the world that had a dream to unite, a dream to make their voices heard, a dream to create the right environment for their families to prosper. Professor Sachs has been a personal friend. He's been a close friend of the forum and of coffee producers everywhere. Our relationship began in 2017. That year, I invited him to our first forum in Medellin, Colombia. That forum brought together President Bill Clinton and President Juan Manuel Santos as well, together with Professor Sachs. It also brought close to 1,500 participants from coffee-producing countries, the industry, NGOs, and governments. Professor Sachs accepted immediately when I asked him to participate in the World Coffee Producers Forum. It took only just one question. He said, "I'm in." And I always underscore something that is not in the script, but by people ask me, "Did you hire Professor Sachs?" No, we didn't hire him. We just told him what we wanted to do, and he said, "I'm in. Count me for this." And he's been walking with us since then. In 2019, in Brazil, in Campinas, thank you, Vanusia, because she was the lead of this meeting, we presented the first major work on coffee that we did with Professor Sachs. It was thanks to his leadership and vision that we could do this work on prosperity and on sustainability in coffee production. In February, this work was later developed with the industry to a next step, not just beyond sustainability production, but also sustainability of the whole coffee value chain. In February 2023, we met again as a forum in Kigali, in Rwanda. Farmers from Africa, Asia, and Latin America asked us to prepare a handbook then, a practical handbook for them to be able to create national, regional coffee sustainability plans based on the SDGs. Then we approached Professor Sachs again, and he said, "You know what? I'm more than happy to do it. Count me in." So we're very happy that we did this. And we put together a very nice team from CCSI in Columbia University, from Watch Responder at Oxford University, and SDSN at the United Nations. For this effort, we had the crucial support from CAF, and I want to underscore, I want to thank CAF for this, because when I mentioned this to Sergio Díaz-Granados, the president of the bank, I didn't finish the sentence. He said, "Sure, I'm in." So since then, we've been having the financial and technical support from CAF. So Alicia, you've been a driving force with your team, and convey my regard to Sergio because he was very open and very positive with this. And the result is a handbook that Professor Sachs will present. It's a handbook that will be freely available for coffee producers everywhere. I underscore this part. The idea, this is not a study, this is not an additional academic trial or document. This is a handbook for people, for producing countries to be able to create their own development plans for coffee growing communities. It's a tool that will help countries and farmers design their own path to prosperity. I again want to underscore the word prosperity. We're not looking forward to living income. We're not looking forward to taking people 1 millimeter above the poverty line, so at the first setback they will get back to poverty. We want to create a structure for coffee growers to prosper. And the idea is simple. I mean, the idea, what we discussed, and I had this conversation with Professor Sachs, he said, "Okay, how do we define prosperity?" And I always thought that in a good sense, like President Reagan said in an interview, when he was asked, "What is pornography?" he said, "I cannot define it, but when I see it, I recognize it." So I'm not an economist, but I know that if my children are better than me, and my grandkids are better than my children, I'm prospering. If my life is an ascending life, I should be prospering and being prosperous. So Professor Sachs, together with the coffee producers and with CAF and the whole team that's working on this, has given us his knowledge and experience, has given us his energy, has shown the world that coffee is not just a drink. He's become an advocate for coffee-producing communities all over the world. And he's the pillar in this effort that aims to achieve, again, coffee farmers' prosperity, not living income, not just go above poverty. We want to achieve prosperity for coffee farmers. And that will require a very, very hard work together with coffee-producing governments, the whole value chain, and coffee producers themselves. A final comment on the context of this is we as producers, when we started the Coffee Producers Forum, we kept discussing about price. Price is not enough, Nestle is killing us, JD is killing us, Starbucks is killing us. That's not true. I mean, the market is the market, yes, but if coffee growers and Julie, you know what I'm talking about, we discussed this, if coffee farmers do not have a pension, how is that Nestle's fault? If there's no connectivity or financial inclusion, how is that Starbucks' fault? So we need to do our own homework, and this is a tool to help coffee-producing countries do their homework and bring prosperity to the coffee-growing communities. So thank you and welcome everybody, and we are looking forward to listening from Professor Sachs. Thank you.
Now, too short. Now it's the time for Vanusia Nogueira, the Executive Director of the International Coffee Organization. Thanks so much, Vanusia.
Thank you, Lara. Good morning to everyone. Good afternoon and good evening to all of the people that are watching us via YouTube. I will not start thanking for the invitation because I'm part of that. I'm not invited to be here. It's my honor to be here with all of you. And thanks, Juan Esteban, for your words. I'm here not with only one hat. I'm one of the founders of the World Coffee Producers Forum, as Juan Esteban said. Now I'm in charge of the International Coffee Organization. But much before than that, I come from a coffee producing family. So I know by heart what we are talking about. Coffee can be tradition, can be culture, can be passion, can support the environment, but it needs to be a business opportunity and a source of income for all of us, for all of the actors that are involved in this value chain. We need to talk and we need to be involved. We need to involve the producers, the governments, the industries, the retailers, the coffee shops, the baristas. Everybody needs to be prosperous. The prosperity, it's not a privilege. The prosperity is what all of us are looking for all of the people that are involved in our chain. Otherwise, there is no future. With poverty, there are no arguments to keep the new generations with us. The ICO and its members recognized some years ago we need to face this challenge together. Public and private sectors, producers and associations, research institutions, development banks and agencies, and the civil society. It's not easy to address it. The challenge is very, very complex. But with suggestions, as we will learn in some minutes from Professor Jeff Sachs, we can move forward. And I'm sure that we will move, not only because of the coffee sector itself, but also because we need to close the gaps to achieve the SDGs that all of us agreed some years ago, the planet and the people need. As the ICO, we are partners. We, as ICO, are partners of this initiative, for sure. And as we are listening this week, all the week here in New York, that it's a very important and strategic week. The word is better when we are together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's now the turn of Jamie Coates, the Executive Director of Wise Responder, University of Oxford.
So thank you very much. I'm here to actually talk about SDG 1.2, the reduction of poverty in its multidimensional forms. But first of all, I particularly want to thank Juan Orduz for his lifelong dedication for the coffee growers and those at the very beginning of this story who are often overlooked. And I want to talk about the word cooperation, which I think is a critical word. And first of all, I want to thank Jeffrey Sachs and Lara and CAF for creating this cooperative thing. And I'm going to talk about cooperation on a technical level, and then I'm going to defer for the political and financial to Jeffrey and CAF. But I think we have some very good news. So we were asked to look at Colombia, Costa Rica, and Brazil, and could we actually measure multidimensional poverty? And what we were able to do is in Costa Rica, there is an official measure, and we were able to look at an overlay, which told us that the coffee growers, about 17%, are in acute multidimensional poverty by Costa Rican standards. In Colombia, some amazing technical cooperation has happened. The Coffee Federation has worked with DANE, the Statistics Office, and other things, and they've actually been able to get accurate data. And the answer in Colombia, by its measure, is that 27.9% of the coffee growers are in acute poverty by Colombian standards. But the technical cooperation is there. Now, in Brazil, we were faced with an interesting issue, but there's great hope in this. There was not a measure, but we went to the state government of Minas Gerais, and they welcomed CAF's support, and we built, with the state using public data, a multidimensional measure, and they are legislating this to be supported and are looking forward to receiving the report to build on it. So what we saw in each of these countries is in Costa Rica, there is issues with housing, access to healthcare. In Colombia, there's issues with informal work, low schooling and the size of properties. Brazil, lack of sanitation, low schooling and job formalization. Now, just to give you some sense, if you look at the multidimensional poverty reduction by governments over time, Costa Rica has, over time, been able to reduce it by about 5% a year, Colombia 4.3%, and Brazil 6% a year over about a decade. But we should also keep in mind China did 12% a year. So I give those numbers out because I think they set a baseline and target that we can do better. And the truth is that we have seen that when you put the political and financial cooperation together, you can exceed these figures and we can take multidimensional poverty down faster. So I'm here to talk about the sort of downside risk. I was very happy to be here with Jeffrey, who can talk about the upside. We need to put the two together, and together I think we can do it. But the question is there going to be the political and investment cooperation that can follow the technical cooperation? Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Jamie. And now I'm pleased to welcome Professor Jeffrey Sachs, the Director of the Center for Sustainable Development at Columbia University. And Professor Sachs will present the core element of the strategic tool designed to support coffee-producing countries and regions in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. Jeffrey, the floor is yours. Thanks very much.
I'm bringing my coffee with me. It's actually not just a demo. I need it for productivity. And think of what the world would be like if it had to get up without its coffee, we would lose about half of the world GDP. I think people would not be able to do their job. That's why I jumped at the opportunity that Juan Esteban Orduz presented to me 8 years ago when the World Coffee Producers Forum was being launched in Medellin, the chance to make a small contribution and give back, if I may say so, as an inveterate coffee drinker, to this wonderful world of coffee cultivators and the coffee community. We know, and Jamie has also just given some glimmers of the data, that while coffee is a vital commodity in global trade and a beloved beverage for almost all the world and a growing share of the world, a lot of coffee communities remain in poverty, and many in multidimensional poverty. So there is a real need for economic development, but more broadly, sustainable development. And sustainable development is a holistic concept, meaning that you combine basic livelihood improvements with social services and infrastructure. And the idea is to accomplish three objectives: economic improvement and escaping from income poverty, social objectives, and that helps to escape from multidimensional poverty. And social objectives are empowerment of women in communities. They are enabling all children to have access to decent education and health care, and to make sure that the inequalities in our society are kept to a moderate or modest level, and that's part of the SDG agenda. And the third component of sustainable development, of course, is environmental sustainability. And this is core for coffee production. Of course, it's core for the entire world. The climate is changing, no matter what you might hear in rumors to the contrary. It's changing rapidly. It's actually changing at an accelerating rate. It is warming at an accelerating rate, more than 0.3 degrees Celsius per decade. We've blown past the 1.5 degree Celsius limit on human-induced warming that was set in Paris. We will soon blow past the 2 degree increment above the pre-industrial temperatures. All of this means thermal stress on crops, but it also means fundamental changes in the water cycle everywhere. More droughts, more floods, more storms, more instability of weather, more forest fires, more intense disruptions of ecosystems. And it's very dangerous, and it is accelerating, and farming comes into this in two big ways. One is our security of our crops, whether it's coffee or food crops, under a changing climate, which will continue to change rapidly, at least throughout this century, almost no matter what we do at this point. Of course, how much will depend a lot on what we do, and we know that we're in the vicinity of global tipping points that could create catastrophes. For example, the real disintegration of the ice sheets, which is within our current boundaries, which could raise sea levels by many meters, not just centimeters. So this is one issue, which is that our sustainability of food supplies, coffee production, and many other activities depend on stopping the climate change, and land use is a big part of that. So For the food systems, we have both the resilience that's needed to the climate change that's underway and the contribution of sustainable land use to help to slow or to stop the human-induced climate change. So sustainable development is a holistic, complicated agenda. That's a problem. Our governments are, I'll speak for my own, are not very well prepared for this. They don't even know that these problems exist to an important extent, or they're in denial, or they don't care because it's beyond the time horizon of the incumbent in power or whatever reason. The agenda is complicated. The agenda is also multi-stakeholder, meaning that it cannot be solved by the private sector alone. It cannot be solved by the communities alone. It cannot be solved by government alone. This makes this hard. This requires a lot of collaboration, analysis, thought, planning, strategy, and finance. So for the last 8 years, since Medellin, since the World Coffee Producers Forum, our efforts have been devoted to trying to create tools and methodologies to take on this big challenge of sustainability of coffee-producing regions across the world. This is dozens of countries, and of course millions and millions of families and tens of millions of people whose livelihoods depend on this, and billions of people whose well-being depends on this sustainability, and to create tools to move forward. And the tools have to be tools of both analysis and engagement, as Lara explained. We need tools that are deliberative, collaborative, and analytical, so that you can actually make a plan, but then that plan involves the cultivators, the local community, the national government, multilateral institutions like the COF itself, and the roasters and the big brand names and the big private sector that has a global reach. And that's what we're trying to do here. This planning has many different components of analysis, and it assesses the state of the communities from multiple perspectives, from multidimensional poverty to access to public services, to the needs for infrastructure, to the state of coffee production itself, and the stresses that the coffee producers are facing or are likely to face because of climate change or environmental stress, and of course the other livelihoods that are involved, because most coffee producing regions are multi-producer regions, other agricultural products and non-agricultural. So this is a mixed set of activities. And the tools that you will find online, and the report, I understand, was uploaded last night, so I haven't even seen it online, but Lara will give you the full guidance of the hyperlinks and the ways to get to the report. This is a set of tools for a deliberative, analytical, cooperative approach. And we are hoping that the COF will say, good, these are good tools. We want to move forward with some of the countries in the region that now want to implement a national scale plan. Believe me, we'll continue our effort. My partner in this, my daughter Lisa, whom you know, had to step out for a webinar because this is Climate Week and UN Week, so everybody is multitasking. But the center that Lisa leads with Lara's incredible partnership, CCSI, is ready for the next steps. I know I'm sure Wise Responders is as well, because they're so active around the world. But we would like to see this now implemented at scale in several countries of the world. These are tools at this point, and the tools should be used to build. My basic idea is that we need investments in these communities at the ground level, in education, in healthcare, in local infrastructure, including transport, water and sanitation, digital access, reliable electricity, and we need the investments on the farm as well for resilience and for productivity, and using the best varieties of coffee, the most climate resilient knowledge, new production techniques, new soil monitoring or climate monitoring techniques. And so we need to mobilize local governments, national governments, institutions, multilateral, and, as I said, the private sector. So I'm also hoping that when we go to scale, we get all the partners from the start saying we'll make this work. And that means some of the big international brands, as well as especially those that are sourcing from that place, that country or countries that become the next scale up, and that we get this combination of investments. The offer to the producers, and the offer to the cultivators and the community, I think, is clear. The offer to the international coffee brands, and they have various parts of the value chain, is that government will come forward and provide complementary financing. But we need the industry to invest as well, to invest in improved and resilient technologies on the farm level, and in all the logistics and all the rest that goes along with the raising living standards. And the value proposition for the governments is, if you invest in these places, the private sector is going to match your funding. Not necessarily an exact match, but is going to be your partner in matching, so that we're really trying to create a collaboration, which is not simple, but is absolutely essential in this wonderful industry. So that's the purpose. I'm very excited. I think we've made a lot of progress in the last 8 years. The awareness is very high. The expectations are high. My discussions with some of the leading brands where I know the leadership is very encouraging, and I think gives us some optimism that we can really move forward. ICO is vital for this, of course. We're here for you, and you're here for the coffee industry and the coffee producers. So I want to end by congratulating the team that did this work, led by Lara and by Lisa and by Jamie, and to thank you for that. And I want to thank Juan Esteban Orduz for bringing me into this great activity, and we have more years ahead, but we'll put this into operation. So thank you very, very much. I'm off to the UN to meet with the head of state of one of the coffee-producing countries. So I will continue the work, but I'll have to take leave. But believe me, I'll be continuing on our mission together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Sachs, for this insightful presentation. And now we can open the floor to questions from participants in the room. Please engage actively, and I'm here to answer your questions. Yes, please.
Thank you. Well, first I want to congratulate you on an incredible effort. I love what you guys are doing. I've been looking at the work with Jamie and Juan Esteban for a while now, and it's so necessary in the coffee industry. My question is, how do you suggest that we look at the guide for the countries, and how can we help so it gets more widely used and understood in the future?
Yes, thanks. I'll answer the question, or should I collect questions? I can answer. So first, the handbook is available online, so you can download it. Everyone can access it. And now the idea for us to implement it is really to make sure that we are all connected and we are coordinated, and we bring it to the ground. So the work is based on the idea that first, a multi-stakeholder partnership has to be created in a specific area and coffee growing area. And at that point, the work starts with a diagnosis of the territory, which means understanding really the challenges. What are the challenges we're up against in terms of the SDGs? And so depending on the context, we're going to have different challenges, right? And so the identification of these challenges is also going to be helpful to say, okay, we need this person in the room. We need this stakeholder group in the room. After that, the second step that we describe in the handbook is the financing. So we need to understand exactly how much does it cost to close the SDG gaps. And again here, another set of actors are going to be necessary. So we have to work with others. It's the private sector, it's multilateral development banks, financial institutions. And after calculating the costs for closing the SDG gaps, we have to go to the investment. So what kind of investments do we need? And that's about understanding what actor can, what is the role that each actor can play. And so the private sector, we have specific roles, as Jeffrey Sachs said. The public sector, we have other roles. And altogether, they're going to develop an investment roadmap. And the investment roadmap is going to set the scene for the future. So the idea is really to start using it first in coffee growing communities and coffee federations. It's a practical tool, so it should be accessible to everyone. And at CCSI and with Professor Sachs, we're going to try to, disseminate it as much as possible. It's going to be, it's already on our website at CCSI. It's going to be on LinkedIn, so we're going to, disseminate it as much as possible. That's our objective. We really want to make sure that everyone has access to it. And we're going to use all the channels that we have to make sure that it gets in the right hands, and we are ready to move forward, of course, with the implementation.
Good morning, and thanks for this wonderful event. My name is Carl Piet, and I am trying to get the microphone to work. Okay, there it is. So I represent the Conservation Biology Institute and also one of our flagship initiatives, which is the Global Wildfire Collective. And so very excited to see the handbook. I think it's just been released, so I haven't had a chance to dig into it. But my question is, understanding that wildfires, of course, are increasing worldwide, but also very much affecting agricultural crops, including coffee. I'm curious to know how that's being integrated within this handbook, within this roadmap, and also what efforts are being made to make sure that the industry and the private sector side is helping to fund wildfire resilience for coffee production for the benefit, of course, of the broader industry, but also the local community producers. Thank you.
Thanks, Carl. So we didn't look specifically into wildfire, and the reason is it's simple. So the handbook wants to create a methodology to understand what are the challenges on the ground. So it means that by using this methodology, some coffee growing regions, of course, are gonna assess that actually there's a risk of wildfires, and then in each context, the local authorities, the multi-stakeholder partnership is going to understand what are the steps that needs to be taken. So we didn't address a specific extreme event. It could be droughts, it could be fires. We didn't assess the specificities. We did assess how can we make sure that coffee production is resilient. So when it comes to the resilience of coffee production, we suggest in the handbook to look especially at the role that the private sector can play in terms of bringing the investments that are needed to make sure that the R&D is supporting new varieties, if that's what is needed according to the assessment, that irrigation is available and is smart irrigation, if again that's the assessment that's what the region needs, and so on. So rather than looking at specific risks, we actually looked into how do we achieve SDG, in this case is SDG 13, so on climate action, how do we make sure that the investments and the collaborations will lead us where we need to go? So that's a little bit the theory behind the handbook. Does it respond to your question?
Yes, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the invitation. I'm Julie Renaud from Nespresso, so I'm representing today a roaster. I don't know if there is any other roaster in the room. Yes, yeah. It's true. Maybe more a comment than a question, but because I don't know to what extent you know what we do. The comment is definitely we will be in as a company, because we've been in for the last 20 plus years in accompanying the farmers in better practices for better productivity, better profitability, better environmental impact. And what we believe strongly is that everything is highly connected. So of course, your compass is the SDG, but what we see at the moment is one way to continue to deliver on the resilience is to make sure that the farmers will adopt the regenerative practices so that they rely much more on nature, which have also benefits for their own health, and decouple as much as we can from agrochemicals. So basically what I can just offer today is that if we find a project or a scoped brief so that we can put the forces together to invest into this transformation, because we have already quite a lot of insight. TechnoServe just made an incredible study on the cost of the regenerative transition. So I think if we put the forces together, we could start with a scoped project and show success and give appetite to other people to go towards this very ambitious target, which is sustainable prosperity for coffee farmers, because indeed it's beyond the farmers, it's also how the whole, let's say, environment and context is thriving. So that was just my comment, and happy to reconnect.
That's wonderful. That's what we want to hear. So amazing. Thanks so much. Any other question? I don't see hands. Okay. So we can now move to the closing remarks. And to close this event, I welcome back Juan Esteban Orduz, the president of the World Coffee Producers Forum, to share final reflections and a call to action.
Thank you very much. I'll be very, very brief. Everything has been said already, but the first thing I want to underscore is that this is a tool. This is not a study to be kept in some shelf. This is a tool that we expect coffee producing countries to use, defining priorities, creating plans. And where did this come from? They came from the conversation we are having with coffee producers and saying, you know what, it's so difficult to establish priorities, to know what to do, what happens on the ground, what happens with the community, what do they really need, and not what do the capital city and the government officials think that should be done. What really needs to be done? So this is the methodology, as I said, as Professor Sachs was saying, to do it. Some countries will need more infrastructure. Some will need more digital inclusion. Some financial inclusion. Some will need a bunch of things. I want to underscore Julie's comments, because Nespresso is a company that they put their money where their mouth is, and that's something I like very much. And I'm telling an anecdote. Some years ago, I was at a dinner with Howard Buffett, and who has a big foundation, and he likes to work in countries that have conflicts and post-conflicts and those kinds of things. And when I told him, what do you do? You know, I'm with the Federation, and we should introduce each other. And he said, you know what? We would like to work with you guys in getting farmers to go away from coca growth, to grow coffee. And we are ready to finance it. And we did a beautiful project. The idea is to have not just get the farmers to do the whole thing. We chose a municipality in southern Colombia. And then we said, okay, we need to give a commercial way for the coffee that's going to be produced. And I went and met with Nespresso at the time. Jean-Marc Duvaucin was in Nespresso, and Guillaume was here in Guillaume Lecomte here in the US. And again, like with Professor Sachs and Sergio Granados, when we presented the idea, I couldn't finish the first sentence, and they said, we're in. Next thing we know, we had met in Switzerland. Next thing we know is that the CEO of Nespresso sitting in Washington, D.C. with Buffett and us, designing the project, which is very successful in Nariño. We did a very good job in there. So thank you, Julie, for that, because we're taking your word, and we're ready to get Nespresso to work hard with us on that. I want to acknowledge some people here, because the Producers Forum is not just, I mean, not everybody's here, because in all honesty, it's very expensive to come to New York this week for producers. But when we started this idea, discussing this whole idea, we said, okay, we're going to make the first meeting in Medellin. And some of you have seen this, and Juan Jose Mesa, who's been a part of this project from day one. We entered the Hotel Intercontinental in Medellin, and then I saw people from Togo, Uganda, Tanzania, and they said, you know what? People really need to have this conversation. From people from producers from all over the world. We had from Africa, we had AFCA, which is African Fine Coffee Association, that's basically East Africa. We had IACO, which is Inter-African Coffee Organization. With ACROM, which is the West Africa Association. In Brazil, we had the Conselho Nacional de Café. We had BSCA, we had Secafé. You know, everybody was also involved. Promecafé, all the Mesoamerica countries, they were part of the whole thing. Anacafé, Guatemala. Zagarpa in Mexico, and Amecafé in Mexico. Y Café en Honduras, y Café Costa Rica, the Consejo Salvadoreño del Café, and many others, many more. India Coffee Trust was there, India Coffee Board was there, Vicofa from Vietnam, everybody was sitting there. And they all came to Medellin, which is a big effort to do. And we had 1,400 people there, and 1,500 in Brazil. And of those 1,400 in Colombia, more than 700 came from abroad. So that tells you an effort. We're talking about mostly coffee producers. So there's really a need for structured support for coffee farmers, coffee producers all over the world. I want to really thank the Federación Nacional de Cafeteros de Colombia, which is not just my home country, but they were the first time I proposed this idea to the general manager at the time, Roberto Vélez. He said, "What do we need to do?" And we did the meeting in Medellin with the 90th anniversary of the Federation, I'm sorry. Which leads me to the next thing, which is the next meeting is going to happen in Medellin again, which is going to coincide. And I want to thank Germán Bahamón, because he also jumped on board immediately when we discussed this. Is, you know what, we're ready to move ahead with this, also with the support of Colombia. And when the Federation will come to its first centennial. It was founded in 1927. So we have the support of the Federación Nacional de Cafeteros, and I hope we will see all of you there, and many more people. It's going to be a very interesting thing. Professor Sachs, we've been discussing this already, is going to be there. And we're moving to the next step with the support of producer associations and the government. And quick parenthesis, Professor Sachs mentioned something about the governments. This will not work if the governments are not involved, because lots of this involves public policies. Again, if we want to have farmers to have titles for land titles, if we want them to have financial inclusion, we want to have digital inclusion, all those things, those need governmental decisions. But what this handbook wants to achieve is to bridge the conversation. To say, okay, this is if I'm to be graphic again, is like someone will come, I don't know, AFCA in Uganda will come, sit down with the government and say, you know what, these people here with Jeffrey Sachs' leadership with Columbia University and Oxford University and the UN, they came with this idea, why don't we look at this? Let's try to implement this. And we have, and we've been discussing with Professor Sachs already, is what we want to see in 2027 is have at least one country in each region, one in Asia, one in Africa, and one in Latin America. So, Julie, pay attention. We source the coffee. Already working on implementing the plans, already putting them in place. It's not a short task. It will require even legislation in some countries, new legislation. It's going to be a difficult process, a long process, but we believe that it will be, this is a very, very, very useful tool. So the idea is to have this in 2027, when we come there, we present, say, okay, now we have these countries, where Colombia or Honduras or Costa Rica, whatever country it is, and Uganda or Tanzania or Cote d'Ivoire, and Indonesia, India, Vietnam, they are using this tool that we're giving them today. And just to finalize, I want to underscore Juan Mesa, because Juan Mesa, to call him, put him on the spot, he's very discreet, but he's been a driving force behind this from the Federation. The first day he was I used to work for the Federation until 2 years ago, and he was in my team. And he jumped on board and he's worked like crazy and still works like crazy for the Brussels Forum. So thank you, Juan Jose. You did a great job. And so I hope to see everybody in 2027 in Colombia. We are going to have a very interesting year. There's going to be the ICO Council meeting is going to happen in Colombia. The World Coffee Conference is going to happen in Colombia. The World of Coffee from SCA is going to happen in Colombia, and the World Coffee Producers Forum is going to happen in Colombia. So we planned this. It's been already on the works for a couple of years. So we're going to have a very busy year. And so you're going to have to travel to Colombia like 3 or 4 times that year. No, not all sequential. No, it's not in 1 week. I mean, we're not trying to overlap. We're trying to make this the whole year round. The first quarters, everything 1 quarter in a different quarter. I know that the forum is going to be in June when the centennial of the Federation takes place. The Federation was founded on June 27 of 1927. So the forum is going to take place around those days. But then you have the specialty coffee, the World of Coffee. We're going to have the ICO, the World Coffee Conference. I mean, all these things are going to happen in Colombia, and we hope that we are going to have some plans already being put in place in some countries, at least one in each region, so we can show that this works, that this was a good idea. This is not a study, this is a tool that we hope countries will be able to use. I want to thank you, everybody, all of you for having come here. This morning, it's early in the morning, it's New York, it's the United Nations, so it's a crazy week, crazy traffic. And especially, I also want to thank all the coffee producers that are connected via YouTube. I know that lots of them from different parts of the country. I've been chatting with many of them. Oh, this is going well. The video I couldn't hear. So all sorts of messages. I couldn't listen at the beginning. Now can. Santiago, it's already solved. But they are also very much looking forward to this. And this is very important. Whenever I go to different countries, I'm going to be in Honduras in 2 weeks and presenting this to the World Coffee Conference. And everybody's looking forward to work with this and to use these plans. And the CCSI is willing to jump on board, so is Watch Responder, and so is CAF. Let's see how much we're gonna get other people to jump in, the World Bank, the IDB, and African Bank. So we're starting those conversations in different regions of the world to make sure that this happens. So thank you all for coming, and we look forward to see you in Medellin in 2027. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much, everyone, for coming today. Just a few final words. I know that you have very busy schedule today. You can find the full document if you visit CCSI's website. So it's Columbia Center on Sustainable Investment at Columbia University. And then if you go to food systems, you're going to find the work achieving the SDGs in coffee growing regions. So you can find everything. And maybe if we can put up the final slide of the presentation, there's actually a QR code where leads you directly to the page of the study. So it's going to be easier. Hopefully that's possible. Otherwise, that's it. And we are always available at CCSI to continue this conversation. Thanks very much, everyone.